here from So Small Somerset, and I'm here with this week's vlog, which I'm going to talk about my makes I made in June. First of all, I'll talk through what we're wearing. I am wearing the New Look K6429. I made just the plain option A simple dress in this gorgeous fabric I'd bought from Exeter Fabric Centre, and I bought it for a jumpsuit. And I loved it so much, I squeezed the jumpsuit into as much small as I could, and I had enough then to make this lovely dress. My dress thumbing here is wearing the Tilly and the Buttons Meghan dress from her first book, Love at First Stitch. I made that one back in May, and I love that dress. It's so comfortable to wear, and a really nice simple first pattern to make if anyone's interested. So let's talk about my makes in June, and this will also cover my link to my video from last week. So last week I spoke about my plans for the week to make the Sew Over It Ultimate trousers, and I will come to that at the end. So to start off with, I started my month making the Giselle dress. So this was the PDF pattern for April, I believe, no, May. This was the PDF pattern for May, and as soon as I saw it, it's the first one I've bought, and I was like, I need that one, I love that outfit, and I bought it with the 10% off. I'm a member of the PDF club. I checked some of the fabric in my stash just to see if I had enough, and I had enough in this gorgeous fabric I picked up in the knitting and stitching show 3 years ago. I had other plans with it, and then didn't really have enough drape for that pattern or this. So it's ended up being made up into this gorgeous full length Giselle, and I just love the fit of how this has come out. I just made a straight size 12, I think, and yeah, it comes out, it's all panelled. It was my first Sew Over It pattern I made for myself. I've made a few poppy and jazz patterns for my daughter up until now. This is the first one I made for me, and I just love the order in which they do things. I've made so many patterns from the big four, including what I'm wearing, but just to think of overlocking before you start stitching together, and it just made so much sense. Though I hadn't actually cracked my overlocker at the time, so I zigzagged this, which I used up my whole spool of thread. At the end I had the bobbin left on the top of my sewing machine just to get the last bit out, because I got length in my legs, so there was a lot of panels in these skirts to zigzag the edges. But it's just come out so well, and I am so pleased with this one, and the fit, definitely one I'd recommend. Just a nice, I think because I've done it in this peachy, it's just a nice sort of day dress on a good summer's day. Probably could be worn for a nice day wedding. You could jazz it up a bit with some really nice accessories and some heels. So that was my first June make, and I was really pleased with that one. My next make in June was this vest top. So I took advantage of the Sew Over It Easter sale, and I picked up a metre, and I restricted myself to a metre of this gorgeous fabric. And as soon as Lisa released it, when she did, I knew I wanted some, I just wasn't in the position to take any then. So I saw this, and then what was even better was she had her own shop up in Yorkshire, and she got some of the blue back in stock. I knew straight away. I thought about buying the black, the licorice, and then the teal came back in. I was like, boom, that's what I'm buying a metre of. Though now I've used this fabric, I so want to buy some of the licorice, and I've watched some of the old videos, and I want to make a jumpsuit in the licorice fabric, because it does look brilliant. So this is the New Look K6532. Was one of the ones I got with the Sew magazine. And I made obviously option A, which is the vesty kind of blouse top with the pleated detail. It was a lovely top sew up. Pattern was easy to follow. Fabric was gorgeous to work with, and it is so comfortable. And I think if you ask me right now, this is my most worn make so far in June. I just love putting this on. It just feels great. I just like the simpleness of this, and in this fabric, I just love this fabric. So yeah, so very pleased with that one. And then I was even happier to see that Ali had made her a top just like this, but in orange, and she wore it on the sewn bee, which inspired me even more to crack on with my make. So that was make number 2 for June. Make number 3 there is a little bit of a theme to some of my patterns because I've recently got into Sew Over It and following them and following her sew alongs, and then I found the Cora top pattern on eBay. It was a pattern that came with, I think, Simply Sewing magazine a while ago, and someone was selling off the pattern, so I picked up the top and then felt even better knowing as soon as it arrived next week Lisa was sewing it in her sew along. So I actually sewed along to the Cora top sew along. Now this is just a simple lightweight crepe I picked up from Minerva.com. It was quite cheap, and in some ways you can feel it's cheap, and it was nice to just sew along with Lisa. Not necessarily the best one I've made, but in a combination of factors that my overlocker wasn't really working on a 4 stitch. I've managed to get it working now, but only using I threaded up 3 in the 3-way. Some of it kind of came apart, had a few issues with a bit of the facing on the front, but I'm glad I made it. They were simple instructions. I'm glad I had the instructions as I went through. You know, I managed to get the pleat detail in the back, which I was proud of. I managed to get the line up of my pattern matching here just right, which I was pleased with. And it's definitely a pattern I do want to make again, but it might just be better in a slightly, I think this is still nice, and I probably will wear it in on a really hot day. It'll be gorgeous because it's so light and loose. I've worn it recently, but it's been on a slightly cooler day, so we have had like a vest top underneath just because it is quite silky at the bottom. So yeah, it's wearable, but I wouldn't say it's been my best make of June. But I was really pleased to just kind of sew along with Lisa, see how it all went together. And actually there are good bits, and then there are not so good bits on this top. So, but I'm all about at the moment increasing my separates wardrobe. I've been working on tops. I've got a couple of trousers and bottom patterns I've done, and I've got plans for. So in terms of just increasing my wardrobe, I was pleased. So my next make was made during the sewing weekender. Now I've had this fabric for a little while, and I knew all along exactly what I wanted to make it with, and I made the Tilly and the Buttons Juno pyjama set. So I made this on the Sunday while watching all the wonderful videos and content of the sewing weekender, and it really is. This pattern's in Tilly's Make It Simple book, and it was so simple. I made it in just a couple of hours. So I went for obviously the tab of a t-shirt, but I went for the 3/4 length sleeve option, which for me, I'm not bothered about having the fully cuff, but I wanted something a bit more than a short sleeve. So soon they had the 3/4 length sleeve option. It was perfect. So yeah, just a simple tab of the t-shirt. It went together so nicely. The neckband came together perfectly round. It's loose. Together as a set, they're just so comfortable, which is exactly what I made them. It was a lockdown inspired make. I just wanted the ability to be something comfortable. I think I'd happily just wear the top even as a t-shirt on a comfy day, and then the bottoms, again, simple pattern, simple elasticated waist. Now I'm tall. I'm 5'9.5", but the majority of my height is in my legs. I am over a metre in legs itself. So I took the pattern, stuck it all together, and then I just checked it on my bottoms, and I knew straight away I needed to lengthen the pattern, and I did, and I had to lengthen this pattern by a whole 10 centimetres. So I followed the pattern, so because it's a tapered leg, I knew straight away I couldn't just extend the lines by the 10 centimetres because I'd have this tiny little gap at the bottom to put my feet through. So I cut across the length and shorten line, added my 10 centimetres, tapered it back out to the top, cut it out, and they are perfect. Perfect length, so comfortable. I did matching cuffs within the fabric. I didn't have the ability to have a separate ribbing, though I think depending on the fabric I would do a ribbing cuff in the future. It was the first time I used one of my crafty pin-up labels, so I bought that Made by Me. I think it was in Abby's birthday flash sale, and also in a trouser like this, it's not easy to tell the front from the back, so glad I've got my label in there to easily guide me front and back. So this was Sewing Weekender make. They are so comfortable. It's such soft fabric. I just picked this up from, I believe this one was Pound a Meter Fabrics. And yeah, really pleased with this make. It's that soft, cozy, comfy lounge set that I've been after all lockdown. So very pleased with this make. Now, my next make is it's been in the stash a while, but wasn't really on my radar to make it this week. Now, this week, as I mentioned in my video last week, my plans were to make the ultimate trousers. I went to cut them out, I started ironing out my fabric, and it suddenly dawned on me I hadn't pre-washed it. Now, if it wasn't for the fact that this was such a close-fitting garment, I might have taken the risk of just cracking on. Ever since I've had a fabric shrink, an item shrink after I've made it, and then it has made it a bit smaller, a bit tighter, I am all for now pre-washing fabric, and I hadn't done. So I was all ready to cut out and do something, so I shoved this in the wash and remembered upstairs I had this fabric already washed. Now, I bought this was one of the other fabrics I bought at the Stitching and Knitting Show 3 years ago, and I've always planned to use this pattern, even to the point that 2 months ago I cut out the pattern pieces. So I had the fabric pre-washed, the pattern pieces were cut out, and I didn't have fabric ready to make my ultimate trousers. So on Friday I just sewed together the Simply Sew Loretta dual neckline dress. It's just a shift dress with a really nice neck detail. I've had this pattern for years. It was one of the ones we picked up off Love Sewing magazine on the early days with their subscriptions. So some of the notches were slightly off. We've noticed that with really early versions of the Simple Sew patterns. Sometimes they don't quite fit together, but in my more experienced dressmaking these days, I got it through. It was a different way of putting together a pattern because they asked you to put the sleeve in on the flat and then do a sew in all at once, which I've only experienced in jersey so far, but it worked quite well. Slightly gathered at the top, concealed zip down the back, and yeah, a few hours on a Friday and I got myself a completed dress. I am noticing lately that quite a few patterns I'm majorly having to take it in the hips and slightly waist. I'm not as hippie as I think the pattern suggested. I had to do the same on the Meghan dress. I thought it was the dress that I thought I should do for, then I second guessed it, made it big, and I took it in way more than what I'd let it out by anyway. And I did the same with this. So once I took it was very hippie before I took it in. So now I've taken it in, it fits perfectly. Very pleased with that one. So yeah, been in my to-do pile for many, many years, and it is now finally in dress form. So pleased with that. Which brings us on to this week's make, which was the ultimate trousers. Now, I rewatched Lisa's sew along, and they made it really quite clear then, you know, if you want a waistband, have a go without doing the waistband first, which I did. I was happy with that. They said, make sure you make a toil, check your fitting, which I did, and I used a plain non-stretch cotton, which they said if you can get the fit right in a cotton, it will make it easier to sew up the actual thing. So I did the fit in a cotton pair, I sewed up the darts just as it was, put it on, no way was it going anywhere near up. In order to get it, the cotton toil to fit, I had to take out the front darts, the back darts, and make the seam allowance on the crotch really small. Sewed it up, worked out, brilliant, thought, cracked it. So I then did exactly that on this pattern, and it was miles too big. So I've had to now experience sewing in darts when a pattern is half together. So I put the back darts back in, which then meant I had to redo the facings I measured out and planned to do anyway, because then the seam allowances are changed. And actually, I'm going to make these trousers again because I do love them. They are so comfortable, and I think I will have a go at the waisted. I've got a black stretch sateen coming because I thought I love these. These are such a bright pattern, got to be one with like plain tops. So I thought, actually, I'm making quite a lot of bright tops. I need a plain back pair in order to counteract that. So that's the next plan. So the other thing I had to do with them is I put them on, and then the trousers were nowhere near tapered enough. I might be tall, but I got skinny legs. So I had to then put them on inside out. I could work out how much I needed to cut off up to about my knees. My flexibility doesn't go further than that. So my husband helped me out, and then we narrowed it down, and I've chopped a good amount off these trousers. So I've then done the right thing. I've then taken these trousers, put it back on my pattern, and I've cut it off my pattern, so that next time I would sew it, and I think I'd sew both the darts back in. I did take it in the hip a bit as well. I think I'd put the front darts back in, I put the back darts back in, probably go back to a normal, or maybe a 1 centimetre seam allowance on the crotch. And then I'd be really, it was such a comfortable pattern. I made them up, I wore them straight away, very happy with them. Just to get them to this form took so much effort, along with the fact I had to fight with my overlocker. It was baking with heat last week. I've got my overlocker to work now, like I said, with the 3 thread, and I finally have these trousers, and I love this Sew Over It ultimate trouser pattern, and I do love it. And I definitely think I like Lisa. I think I want them to be more these slightly just like low waist, high hip, and I think I want these to be a waisted pair of trousers. So that's going to be my next challenge. Now I've made the pattern, I've worked in, and I've got it to fit, so it'll be the nice 50 style tapered leg. Again, I added 3 inches to this pattern in order for it to sit right on my ankles in that 50s way. But definitely on my make list to make another pair of trousers. Working on my separates, and then I've got 2 pairs of really nice tight fitting trousers, which then complement. I've got 2 of the Simple Sew Shannon collection trousers, which are more wide leg. So very pleased with it. And the fabric I picked up about 4 years ago on Gold Hawk Road. I took a trip to London with my husband, who was my fiance at the time, and I said I want to go to Gold Hawk Road, and I just looked up and down, and I found this fabric, and it's been sat in my stash since, and I'm so pleased I've now used it to make such a jazzy pair of trousers. And I've still got a metre and a half left, so I think it might work in the future on a really nice pencil skirt. So I've got my eye on the Sew Over It ultimate pencil skirt pattern, because I like how high-waisted that is then, and that will be again another statement item of clothing for my wardrobe. And because I've been in such a good sewing mood this week, my week didn't stop there, and I cracked out on the last day of June this gorgeous little skirt for my daughter. So this is the Poppy and Jazz Juniper skirt pattern version 2, which is the one with the yoke and the skirt bit. Now I did this because I found this scrap in my stash, and there was enough that if I folded it in all the right ways, I was able to get the skirt out of it. And actually it's so cute, and the viscose is so light that actually it's going to make such a nice summer skirt for her. So I'm really pleased with that. I've still just got to hem it, but very pleased with that one. And then again, because I just was in the mood and in the right time, I managed to crack out one last make, which again is another Sew Over It pattern. I'm big on Sew Over It patterns this month, and I managed to crack out a Lizzie skirt. Now I started it yesterday. Today is Wednesday, it's the 1st of July, so I'm going to just about squeeze this into a June make, because I did start it yesterday. And it was just again another lovely pattern to sew. I'd watched Lisa's sew along a couple of weeks ago, and I really took my time and focus on it. I say that I accidentally sewed the zip in on the back. You sew the zip in when the 2 back panels are separate, and I'd accidentally sewn the zip in at the bottom of the back panel, so that set me back 20 minutes by just having to switch it down. So other than adding a hook and eye to the back, I finished this morning. I really focused on getting that waistband right, and I just love it because it's my first skirt pattern, my first pattern ever, I think, with, if I can find them, they're hidden so well, inseam pockets, and it sits just right. So pleased with how this has come together. This was a fabric I picked up in IKEA a few years ago, and it's numbers written in words. Obviously here we've got like 8, there's 7, just lots of numbers, so it's something just nice. And I think in this building up to the summer, in getting really into the summer now, that this will be just a nice skirt I can crack out for just a nice day, if we're just going for a walk somewhere, or just it's so comfortable to wear. So that's my last make of June, and I am very pleased with how this has come together. So now I look back on it, I've even surprised myself. I've managed to crack out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 items this month, and I did a couple of face masks for a friend. That's 9 separating out my Juno pyjamas into a top and bottoms. So I'm really pleased with that sort of. I've just at home using my time in order to get like my lockdown sojo back on, and I know that I'll film a vlog for next week with my July plans and makes, of which I've got more separates on the cards. So yeah, so hopefully I'll keep this sojo going, increase my sewing skills even more, and have more makes for you to share with you at the end of July. So I hope you enjoyed this. Please subscribe to my channel. Please tick the subscribe button. Give me a thumbs up. I'm trying to grow my brand, trying to grow my voice, my sewing journey, and hopefully get some more followers at this. So thanks for listening.